What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with EnderIO, and today we're going to be discussing basic power generation, basic power storage, and then a couple of fun add-ons that are pretty much just quality of life changes for your power setup. So first things first, power generation. Unfortunately, EnderIO does not have great power generation. More specifically, early on they have horrible power generation. So we've been using the Stirling Generator, and although it's pretty bad to start out, once you add in some capacitors, it can get to a reasonable, speed. It can generate a fair bit of power, but you're still going to always have to feed it with coal, which can get a little bit annoying if you're not mining 24/7, if you're not always getting those huge pockets of coal, by the surface. It can get a little bit annoying to run in general. So I'd like to get away from the Stirling Generator, or at least not use it as my main power source. So we are going to be going to the Photovoltaic Cell. Now, that's a fancy way of saying it's just EnderIO's solar panel, and so it's really nice for passive power generation. Of course, with any passive power generation, you're really not going to get that much bang for your buck. Unfortunately, the first tier only gives 10 RF per tick maximum. That's when it's got a clear line of sight to the sky, and then it's not going to generate, obviously, at night, or even when it's raining. There are 3 tiers of it. The next tier is 40 RF per tick, and the final tier is 160. Now you might be thinking to yourself, 160, well, that's not that bad for a single block, It's really not horrible for a solar panel, but unfortunately, this is extremely expensive. You've got the octadic capacitors, you need 3 of the previous tier, and then you need an ender crystal, which it's a whole process to get here, and we will discuss it later on, but really right now, we're kind of stuck to the first one, and even just doing this is pretty expensive. We could, with what we have right now, make it to the second tier, but that would require a ton more that I'll explain while we're crafting it. But basically, we're going for the Photovoltaic Cell. Now, there's a couple cool things that we can do with these, so they're actually not horrible to start out with. So we got to do some crafting to get those. So I have a fair bit of stuff in here. It took a while to get all this nether quartz in here. I did make some upgrades to my tools. I ended up using iron for a while. I was just watching some Netflix while I went through and gathered a bunch of stuff, and then I had to go fight a bunch of Endermen, and of course you can cheese Endermen pretty easily, and then I decided, you know what, we're just going to upgrade the tools, so I went on a bit of a mining trip, got some diamonds, so now we've got some new tools. Hopefully I will enchant those in the near future, or go to EnderIO tools, but just a brief recap of gathering all this stuff. It is a little bit of a pain in the butt, and this was only to get tier 1. So just something to keep in mind, if you have the option, you're playing a mod pack, do not, I repeat, do not use EnderIO for power. Really, if you have the option, don't do it. That's kind of stupid to say, like my videos about EnderIO power generation. Just don't do it. But yeah, so we're going to go to the Photovoltaic Cell. First thing we need to do is make some fused quartz. Now this is going to be made in the alloy smelter, and that's what this nether quartz up here is for. We are going to need, per photovoltaic cell, 2 fused quartz. So we need a fair bit of it, and every fused quartz requires 4 nether quartz, so each one of those is going to require 8. So we are going to throw these in there and just cook down a fair bit of them, because we are going for 9 of these today. So we should have had enough with that in there. Should be good on that front. 72, perfectly fine. It's pretty simple math, but it's kind of annoying calculating this out. I did all the math for this, figure out exactly what we needed. Gets a little bit annoying, but yeah, so we need 72 fused quartz for 9 of these. Next thing we are going to be doing is going through and making the alloy for this. Okay guys, so something a little bit embarrassing right there. The reason I cut the video is because after I said, yeah, I did out all the math and the calculations for all of this, I realized I actually had 1/4 of the amount of glowstone, redstone, and gold we need for this setup, and that's mainly because you need energetic alloy for this, but you also need vibrant alloy. Vibrant alloy requires energetic alloy, so really I only had enough to make 9. We need 36. So I went, grabbed all the stuff from the chests. Surprisingly, I had enough glowstone for this. I have a ton of redstone and gold, but I was worried about the glowstone. I had just enough. I think we have like 7 left. And I also let the fused quartz cook down, because we're actually going to be smelting a bunch of stuff today, and it's actually might take a little bit with having to cook everything down on camera. So the next thing we're going to make is the 36 energetic alloy. So energetic alloy to make is kind of annoying early on if you haven't gone to the nether yet, but it's not too bad once you've taken 1 trip there. It requires 1 glowstone, 1 gold, and 1 redstone to actually make. So we can bring that over here. I do have a double layer capacitor in here to kind of speed up the process, so we can throw that in and let it cook down. Unfortunately, it only goes one at a time. The horrible part about the alloy smelter is it doesn't do 3 of these at a time, and it's pretty darn slow. But while we let that go, I can discuss the next part of this, I guess, since there is a little bit of crafting that needs to get done. So the next thing that we have to do is going to be make the daylight sensor. So this is a pretty simple part of this. It requires, I guess for 9 of them, we're going to be doing 27 of each of these, but it's 3 glass, 3 nether quartz, and 3 slabs of your choice. So that's what we got up here. We can easily craft these, no problem. There we go. Get 9 of those, and we're good to go on that front. Nice and easy, painless, unlike everything else in this whole process to do. And then after that, we've got a lot of crafting to do in terms of making capacitors. So we need 2 capacitors for each of these, which require a fair bit of gold nuggets and redstone. So we need 18 total. And I believe this right here is for those capacitors, because if we need 18 total, it works out perfectly to 10 gold ingots since we need 90 gold nuggets. And then we've got the 36 redstone, which should be enough. There we go. Boom. And 18 basic capacitors. So we've got those ready to go. And let's check over here and see how this is doing. Okay, so we're only at 9. That's a little bit unfortunate. But while we're letting that craft down, I guess I should probably sleep, because I don't have any armor anymore after some horrible deaths off camera while fighting the Enderman. But yeah, so I don't really want it to be nighttime. I'm not ready to fight stuff right now. The next thing we're going to craft, though, is going to be the power storage. And we can just get this all done right now. We don't have to do everything, power generation, then craft the power storage. So the next thing we're going to do is going to be a capacitor bank. So it pretty much is crafted just the way it sounds out of a bunch of capacitors. We're going to be making the basic one today. So it's going to be 4 basic capacitors per a redstone block and 4 iron, which means basically we're just making a bunch more capacitors. More specifically, we should be making 8 capacitors total. So there we go. We got all 8 of them. We've got the 8 iron ingots and then the 2 blocks of redstone to craft both of these. And there we go. So the reason I am crafting both of these, I'm making more than one, is 1 million RF internal storage is perfectly fine. The next tier does 5 million, and the tier after that does 25 million. But I want to show off the special feature that capacitor banks have to offer. And that is that they can connect and form a they can pretty much connect, it's not really a multi-block structure, but they can connect and share their, I guess it would be a multi-block structure. They share their internal buffer, and they pretty much combine to act as one block that has the properties of both of them in terms of input, output, and internal storage. So let's check on this and see how it's doing. It's at 20 right now. It might take a little bit to actually finish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop off camera right now. I'm going to let this finish, and I should probably throw some coal in here first, because it looks like we're going to run out soon, which is why we need this new power setup. But I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to let this finish right here. And I guess another step I can do off camera and discuss right now is going to be crafting the next alloy in this, which is the vibrant alloy. Now this is going to require all of those ender pearls I got. We need 18 of them, and that was a pain in the butt to get. Probably the worst part of all of this. Actually, definitely the worst part of all of this. But we're going to be making that. It's an energetic alloy and an ender pearl. Basically the same thing as the previous step. It's going to take 10,000 RF, and it's going to make a vibrant alloy. So I will finish all the alloy crafting off camera, so we can come back and start actually setting this up and getting it running. Okay guys, so this has actually taken a fair bit of time to have this all kind of cooked down, and it's not even done yet. But as you can probably see right now, the big issue is just getting the power in here. So it's just kind of gotten a backup right now. So this will finish burning, and honestly we're gonna have to add more coal again, so we'll just throw that in there. Again, showing why I don't like the Stirling Generator, even though it could be better if I just put some upgrades in there. But this will finish cooking down very soon, and while that happens, we can finish off with the last thing that needs to be crafted today, which is the power monitor. Now, we're only going to be making the power monitor, not the graphical power monitor. They're basically the same thing. This is just an upgrade that allows you to have a screen to visualize what the power monitor itself is saying. Now, the power monitor is what I mentioned as kind of a quality of life change. It doesn't really do anything other than tell you how much power is coming in, how much is going out, and where everything is being stored, and pretty much just allows you to output a redstone signal based on your own custom settings of whether it's below a certain percentage, above a certain percentage, which is actually really nice if you've got something that's non-passive generation. So let's say, for example, we had a reactor. Then you could say, stop putting stuff in the reactor when we're above 90% power. I used this with the Endergenic generators a lot and would say stop inputting ender pearls when we're above 90% power, and it would stop at 90%. It would fill up maybe to like 95%, and then it would drop down, and it's like 75%, it would start running again. So it's actually very useful when you're interacting with other mods. Today, though, we're not going to be using it for anything along those lines because we're only using passive power generation. So if you do have passive, it's a nice quality of life thing that will allow you to see where all the power is going and what rates it's flowing at. Other than that, though, it doesn't really provide that much, so it's not a necessity, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to craft too. It's a bunch of random stuff. So we need 6 electrical steel. Haven't really crafted this on camera before, but it's really simple. Silicon, coal powder, iron ingot. You can get the silicon from doing clay. Obviously, we don't have the redstone ore to use. You can also use sand. I prefer to use clay because we already have a ton of that, and you pretty much get given back to you what you put in. So it's really nice to do that recipe. So we have that. We can grab that out. We need the machine chassis for this one too. And then along with that, we have the energy conduit right here. And the rest of this is going to be used for the conduit probe. And this one's kind of the annoying part. It's 2 electrical steel. We have the energy conduit, the redstone comparator, the whatever, glass pane you want, and then a redstone conduit and silicon there. Did I call this one a redstone conduit or an energy conduit? I don't even know. But we're going to grab all this stuff out then. We can do the crafting. So we can come in here and make this. And then we can finish off the power monitor there. So everything over here should be done. Awesome. Finally done. That honestly took like 30 minutes to cook down. It took so long. So you definitely want to get started on that the minute you start crafting this stuff. If you do plan on doing stuff similar to what we're doing in the video right now, that I was able to watch an entire episode of anime while that was playing. Side note, I'm watching right now. It's called like Dusk Maiden of Amnesia. It's pretty good. I liked another, and I like the anime Shiki. They're kind of like, not horror animes, but they're just kind of like that. So I decided I'd watch one similar, and this was a similar one. It's got really good art. Kind of a stupid storyline though. So it's a trade-off. Whatever. Just side note. I guarantee at least some of you like anime. So, but yeah, we've got the 9 photovoltaic cells. All of that work for at most 90 RF per tick. That was a lot of work. And of course, it is nighttime right now, so we have to sleep if we even want these to work when we hook them up, which of course we do. So I have made an area right up here to put them down in. So the first important thing to know about these is they can connect to form one big array. So when we start putting them down, you can see that they will start generating right here. So we put them down and you can see they're connecting now. So you can see the efficiency on them overall. And it just really relates. I don't know if vines can like count as blocking them. But you need to have a direct line of sight to the sky. Do these count as blocking them? I don't know. It might just be where the sun is in the sky. I don't think this should be blocking them. But as you can see, they start connecting. They work as an array together. And this is really nice because not only can you see the overall efficiency, how much they're generating in total, but you only have to hook one part up to a conduit, which is very, very nice if you want it to look nice if you're looking at it from below. So right now we're not going to be able to see it from below, but if you have it somewhere, let's say you've got it on the ceiling of your base, you only have to hook one part up to a conduit and you don't have this mass of conduits running around connecting to each one. So we can hook all of these up, and actually I'm going to break this one right here because we're going to be wiring it down through here. But when we hook the rest of these up, it actually looks pretty cool. I really like this color. It's a very vibrant color. That's not really important, but I actually really like this color. So we're at 73% efficiency right now. If it were to start raining or become night, it would go to 0. But these do have internal buffers of 10,000 RF per one. So this whole thing will have an internal buffer of 90,000 RF in the end. You can see the efficiency is still going up here as the sun gets closer to noon. So we will put down the energy conduits down here like so. This will be more than enough energy transport for them, considering it's only 90 RF per tick, and this can transport, what is it, 640? Yeah, so 640. So we won't need to worry about upgrading for a very long time, but we can put these down, and you can see we are currently getting 72 RF per tick out of the 90 that we could be getting. A lot of work for very little, but now comes the power storage. So because we're not using this all the time, we want to make sure we store this power, because although these have internal buffers for when it becomes nighttime, you might want a little bit coming out of these. it's not going to be big enough. So we want to make sure we have an internal buffer that we can store all of this in. And if we, can't sleep right away, or we're having this system run right here and it's taking more RF than what this is generating out here, we want to make it so that this can continue running for at least an extended period of time, not forever, but for long enough to finish whatever we're processing. So we're going to be using the capacitor banks. And these work in the same exact fashion that these work up here, in that they will form one large system when you start connecting them. And no, they do not have to be the same. You can put on different capacitor banks with each other, but they form one texture. And you can see right now that we are getting power coming into this right away. It even shows you how much power is coming in. So it's positive 81 RF per tick right now. It'll tell you if it becomes negative, how much it's losing. So that's the net gain of power. You can come in here and see pretty interesting UI that comes up. The maximum input is going to be 2000. Normally it's 1000, but combining them, you can get it to 2000. Max output is at 2000. You have the ability to actually change these if you want to say, if we're using 1100 RF per tick and we only can support 1000, then we can go in and we can change this to 1000 and you'll be good to go. Unfortunately, you cannot set it over the number that you have as the max. If you try to type in 3000, it'll auto set it to 2000. You also have the ability to set this always active, and active with signal, active without signal, never active. So you can pretty much change it based on whatever redstone you want. You have the ability to configure this if you want specific configurations. It really doesn't matter if you're just piping in with a conduit and piping out. It's fine to have every side essentially as in out, as it already is. And the nice thing is that there's 4 different slots to charge stuff in the bottom here. It's the 4 different lightning bolts, and it also shows you your gear on the left side of this. So you can pretty much grab your gear without having to take it off, then access the UI. You can grab it from the side, put it in here, and then put it back on your person. And it's really easy to charge stuff in here. A lot of mods will have power storage where you can't charge stuff, and that's a little bit annoying. So this one is definitely great. I honestly love the multi-block capability of this, considering you can start out small and slowly work your way up and just kind of build on it. And it looks like we are at 100% efficiency for these out here, because the sun should be, I don't even know if I have the sun on right now, but it should be pretty much noon then to get the 100% efficiency. And it really has a cool little display of how much power is in it right over here. So now that we have that, we can easily hook it up to our system, and it'll start filling these up with power, and you'll be able to see now that it slowly drops, and now it is draining 130 RF per tick. So if we wanted to change the max output to, let's say 50, we should start getting a net gain again, because it's only allowing 50 out. But I'd like to keep 2000 going out just so that we can make sure if this is ever full, that we're not limiting the amount coming out. So the last thing we're going to hook up then is the power monitor. This can go anywhere. It needs to go anywhere adjacent to a conduit. So if we were to put it down right here, it would say nothing. It says no conduit network attached. It needs to be attached to a conduit network to read data from. Unfortunately, it does get a little weird because we've got this as kind of the middleman. So this is an energy buffer right here. And really the biggest downside of this is that when we put this monitor, let's put it right over here. We'll put it up here and it'll connect. And, it can read that. It's got an internal storage right here of 10,000 that you can see is filling up. But unfortunately, it's not going to be able to read everything because we do not have it hooked up to the conduits over here. So it's giving you a reading right now of input because we've got this Stirling generator hooked up over here. But if we were to disable this, it should stop putting input there. So yeah, it's slowly dropping down because nothing's getting input, when in reality we do have 90 RF per tick being input on the other side. So if you don't have a middleman like this, or you were to hook this up on the portion of the conduits that run from the photovoltaic cells over to the capacitor bank, then you'd be able to read the input. Right now though, we're only able to read the output. You can see what the power storage is of the capacitor bank. You can see what the power storage is of machine buffers, which would be these two right here. Unfortunately, we have to break this and get this back down because I disabled it. But you can see all of that good stuff. And then the most important part of it, not just this convenience right here, you can also see conduit storage. If you didn't know, conduits do have internal storage. And once all of this fills up, it'll start filling up the conduit storage. Just a side note. But this is the important part right here, the redstone part. So you have the option to check this on, and it is to emit a signal when storage is less than, enter % full, and stop the signal when the storage is greater than or equal to however much percent full. So this is great for, like I said, endogenic generators, reactors, really any active source of power where you have to put items in, and it'll just keep running if you can't, even if you can't add more power to it. So if you have a reactor that you just keep throwing like yellorium in, or the mechanism reactor, and you don't want it to keep going and going and going past a certain percent, then you can use this to turn the redstone on. And whether you're using redstone to stop some conduit that's putting stuff in, or redstone to actually toggle something on and off in the reactor or system itself, either way it's going to work, and it's really useful for that. It's a great way to interact between mods. I use this almost exclusively when I'm turning things on and off based on power, because it's so simple to use and change. So definitely a good quality of life change, and if you need it for the redstone, then it's probably the best block you're going to find for that. So it's a very good block to know about. Eventually we will upgrade this power system, and when we do, we'll talk about the graphical power monitor, which can get a little confusing, but this is definitely not required. It just looks a little bit cooler. I just didn't have the ability to get all the different dyes right now, so that's why we're not using it. But I think that's going to be it for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you found it entertaining or informative in any way, please feel free to give it a like, as it does help me out a lot, and I will talk to you guys later.